they're here to present, and I was hoping that we'd have more people from Trescott and Whiting and Cutler, but, because they are going to be very much a part of this. And, but I invited the guys back here to talk to everyone about what it would mean. We've sent them, at their request, maps of the unorganized territory and kind of make it as open and transparent as possible.
Yep.
So I'm assuming you guys have come up with the master plan.
We have a couple of ideas that we'd like to
Master
share.
plan.
We
Good.
have a couple of ideas that we'd like to share.
Rachel? I could. In case people at home do not know what we're televising here, it is a town office talk to people from Trescott, Edmonds, Whiting, and Cutler to join us in Lubec for the possibility of opening up fiber optic broadband to the area. I wanted to include the unorganized territories as much as possible, and Tim and Don gladly agreed to come today and talk to us about it. Okay? Thank you.
All right. So what we discussed the last time we were here was the overall vision that the group had for what they'd like to see for broadband, and the conversation boiled down to fiber optics, and that's kind of what we do. That's our specialty. And we discussed the Down East Broadband utility that was started in Baileyville and Calais. We looked at that option, and we went away from the meeting seeing a lot of energy here at the table. There's a lot of really good thoughts. A lot of people had great input. The biggest thing that we could see when we walked away was the financing piece. How would we finance such a thing? In the meantime, we sent Dawn to a USDA Reconnect workshop in Pittsburgh for a week. He's got some experience looking over the applications for the Reconnect program. The Reconnect program is the $600 million that you read about in the paper, hear about on the news. $200 million of it is grant only, $200 million is loan only, and $200 million is loan and grant combination. Those programs look to be something that would suit the needs for this group. Now, they all come with their own caveats, and they all come with their own pitfalls, if you will. For one, the grant application, that portion, if I understand it correctly, Don, is very, very competitive. So that's a tough one to get hold of, but I think that a case can be made, and I'll explain more about that later. The grant loan combination is it's a healthy mix of grant and loan funds. 2% interest, 3 years deferred on a construction loan. That's pretty good. And then there's just the loan money, which is 2%, 2% interest, 3 years deferred. First come, first serve with a fitting application. So we've got competitive on one side. We've got low interest, first come, first serve with a viable application on the other side. And then we have the middle area. I think that I think it'd be worth the time to fill out an application for the grant, just to see if it were possible to obtain that funding.
Is this the same as what we just did under rural Betty?
Yeah.
We've done it.
Yeah.
We've sent it in.
Oh no! This would be no. It's under rural development, but it's the new Reconnect fund. So it's not ready. I'm sorry. It's a different program.
Okay.
The application window doesn't open until April 23rd.
Okay.
And so there are a couple of things that make this. I'm going to call it a project just because it's a loose term. And nothing has been set in stone anywhere, but we're going to call it a project for the sake of this conversation. If there were a project to be had, this project of Lubec and the surrounding communities would make a really great opportunity for the grant because of one of the main scoring factors, which is rurality. and the rurality of this area could prove to have a lot of scoring leverage. One of the key points in the rurality scoring is if you can focus your service area and have less than 6 people per square mile served, you get 25 out of 100 points for that one factor. So rurality is huge. And if we can prove that in our geographic area, in this application, we stand to get a great number of points. So we might not make the demographic for a poverty level or anything like that, but we can get a good rurality factor in there.
And we're talking about the whole area, not just Lubec.
That's
This is
correct.
The whole, yeah, okay.
And so we spent some time forensically asking questions at these workshops because a light bulb went off in my head, and I thought of this group as soon as I was sitting in.
Saying that, yes.
I was in this one meeting in Presque Isle, and that's what prompted me to send Dawn to Pittsburgh. I said, "You got to go learn more because this just screams, Lubec and the UT, right?"
Yeah.
So when the guy told us, he said, "Well, I don't think anybody's going to get the rurality scoring. It's just really hard for me to believe that anybody's going to come up with an application where we have 6 people or less per square mile." And I'm laughing inside.
Piece of cake.
I mean, so I asked the question, "What can I define my own geographic service area?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Yes, you can."
Marvelous.
And I said, "So I can pick and choose what I want to serve?" "Oh yeah, for sure."
Slam
And
dunk.
so I did a quick sketch on our GIS system, and I got down to about 5.2, 5.1 in defining a service area for these 5 communities or so.
Yeah.
So I was encouraged by that.
Yeah.
We sent Don down to Pittsburgh. He knows more about the application and the process. Everything's very fast at this point. The window is open on the 23rd.
Yeah.
It's only a month long. So there's no time to waste.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it would, my personal opinion, I don't think that it would hurt anything to put in an application. We would do the work as far as putting in the application. We would need support letters, right, and that kind of thing for the application. Yes?
Each of the 4 or 5 towns would have to do this?
No.
No,
No.
one.
We would do it as a regional approach. We'd make it one project for as many of the towns in the unorganized territories that wanted to take part in it. There's no money involved in this. We're trying to get a grant.
Yeah.
If it's a grant, it's 75%.
We do the 25%.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we can come up with a project, it would be a 75% grant. We'd come up with a 25%
Yeah.
to make it a viable project.
Yeah.
It also has to be 100% unserved,
Yes.
which is less than 10-1 in this
Yes.
case. So
Yeah.
when you draw the map, you essentially carve out those areas.
Yeah.
Like obviously, I see spectrums here in Lubec. You'd have to carve out that area and figure out how to finance that portion of it privately, or leave it till a later phase or something like that.
But by drawing in and around those areas that have good broadband right now, you form a really good backbone for your network that you can easily peel off services to the rest of the community later.
Yeah.
But we can get that unserved portion, we draw that geographic area as the unserved portion and call that out for the grant. And that acts as the base for whatever we want to do in the future for expansion. And we make sure that it went through every community that was involved.
That sounds very promising.
It really does, and so we asked more questions to make sure. I said, I can define a service area in a number of different places and get below 6 people. And he said, yeah, well, you think you can do that, you can do that. And
The last time we had a meeting with you spoke of a federal grant having a lot of caveats attached,
yes,
such as community buildings
Yep,
and
yep.
that kind of.
and that's why we sent Dawn to Pittsburgh. They don't have that anymore.
That's a different.
That's a whole different,
Awesome.
It still exists, but it's.
but that's not this
But that's
reconnect.
not what we're talking about.
I was afraid that they would have all that stuff in there, and they don't. It's a little bit more no-nonsense now. So, I mean, there's still a lot of paperwork, but they don't require us to have a community center and all that. It's now a 75% grant, 25% match for the project.
Yeah.
And that's for the physical infrastructure?
Yes.
Okay.
So what I envision, what my personal vision of this whole thing, is if we can get the grant and have the funding we take care of getting the funding source there. We would want that to become part of the DBU utility and have the utility manage all that. Because they have all the insurances and the legal and all that.
Yes.
They just need to have they need to have a loan guarantee, or they need to have the capital up front to build the network. So if we can build this project and then hand it over to DBU to manage and maintain going forward, that would be the best of both worlds.
Yes,
That means that,
and it makes sense.
yeah, it makes sense. We
Yeah.
could have it open, we'll find the financing and to get the 25% match, and it will be in DBU's realm. It'll still be an open access network where people can come in and serve. We won't be the only providers. We would want to design and build the network, and then everybody that wanted to come in and serve could come in and serve. And that seems to be the best approach for your communities altogether. And you have some competition that can come in then and do its thing. That's what's important.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think right now, we were just talking before you came about, Spectrum and Consolidated are an ever-increasing presence here right now. And so somehow the word has got out that we're looking to have fiber optic broadband. And even though they said, no, we can't do it, they're now coming around, sniffing around. So it's okay.
Yeah,
It's okay.
that's good. Even if this doesn't work out and the grant doesn't happen, if they know you're serious and you're pursuing it and they do something to benefit your community, that's great. It's fabulous.
Does each town need to vote on it? Maybe Renee knows.
So, in an effort to become,
She just stepped out.
Yeah.
in an effort to become part of the utility, I think that your towns would all have to vote on that. But in principle, at this point in time, if we can see if we can get the grant, I mean, we can always deny
Yes.
the grant. We can say
Yeah.
we don't want it. But if
Yeah.
we don't have time, we don't have time to assume that you guys are all gonna be able to call special town meetings to make that happen.
Yeah.
But if we can at least get the application in and take a really good shot at meeting the window,
Yes.
and then doing the convincing afterward.
Yes.
And it's much easier to convince when you've got the money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if we hinge everything on waiting for town meetings, we might miss a window, and that's all. You had questions?
I did. I wondered if you could just explain briefly the DBU for those
Sure.
who aren't familiar with
Yeah.
that.
So DBU is the state's first broadband utility. They are a nonprofit organization run by a board of 7 people in Calais and Baileyville. They started out with some private funding to build fiber to every home in both their communities. So every home in Baileyville, with the exception of 22 homes at Lamb Farms Place, which is way out off the end of the map, because it's 4 miles out of the way, and only those 22 people would be served by the fiber. They decided to wait and do that later, but they have DSL, so they're not going to be without anything. They have something now. The plan is that as the network grows, they'll go pick up the 22 people in Lamb's Farm later on and bring them on. There's also a few people out at Nash's Lake, at the very end of Nash's Lake. It just didn't seem feasible. But other than that, every other home in both those communities, all of them are getting access to broadband, to fiber. And anybody that has a telephone or electric pole that serves their home would have access to that fiber optic.
Whiting, I'm from Whiting, so if I go back to talk about it, I want to know. Whiting is separated by Route 1, and then the rest of it is on Holmes Bay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it isn't, you can't even get there by road.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you be serving the Holmes Bay area?
Well, he's going to have cover.
Hmm?
He's going to have
It-
cover.
If, well, you don't do color.
And you're including color.
I'm including color in my assumption.
Yeah, yeah. And we sent you the
No.
map,
Yes.
so yeah, you did, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Our goal is to make it as inclusive as possible.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
have to, I was thinking the other day, well, there's Edmonton, and what about Dennisville? What about, I thought, all right, Rachel, stop it.
Yeah, and so there is a point where you have to say, okay, I gotta
Yeah.
hold up, because
Yes.
we're talking about a pretty big nut to crack here,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
with the regionalization approach, we can save money over doing 5 individual builds.
Sure.
I mean, there are economies of scale to be had there, but we're still talking about millions of dollars. So I mean, we have to be realistic in our approach, especially with the 75% grant. We have to be realistic in our approach with that.
Sure.
Because that other $1 million is gonna be hard to come up with, because it's a $4 million project, you know, that we estimate. I mean, and all we've done is estimate, folks. We haven't had the time to do anything, in way of engineering anything. We've done some really quick sketches and some quick stuff in our design system to try to come up with a number. So it looks like somewhere in the order of $4 million. So that means that we have to try to come up with $1 million.
Yeah, so from what I'm hearing, then the center that basically where we are now will not be included in the area because the density is probably too high. Or
Right. So we would make our geographic serving area just outside of the area that's being served right now.
Right.
So your neighbor might be the boundary, right? So if your neighbor doesn't have that service or the cable ends or whatever, that's where we'll start our serving area.
Yeah.
And we'll completely cut out those areas that have the good broadband as far as they're concerned. It will look like a piece of Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
So my follow-up question then is, if we wanted to get actually wanted to get the service downtown, what would that take?
So we would have to look at that from a private construction standpoint, and it's a lot easier to do that once the backbone infrastructure is in place from the grant. So the grant infrastructure should set that up, so it'd be pretty easy to go and serve those small pockets of existing service areas later on.
Just to get some order of magnitude there, if you wanted to actually serve downtown Rebecca, what are we talking in per mile or per house or per what? I mean,
Yeah, you know, we have to do that, we have to do that analysis, but it's gonna be,
I didn't do it.
no, I didn't get a chance to do it either. But we just have to take those number of homes out of the service area in order to get the grant around it. And then when we look at the area that's currently served, it's gonna be, kind of a straight mileage situation, somewhere around $15,000 to $20,000 a mile, to do construction in that area that would be left out of the grant. And like I said, that's easier to get later on because there's numbers there of people that would take the service, whereas the grant is in places where there's not a lot of numbers and we need that assistance.
Wow.
He's looking for,
Hi. Yeah.
Is it for
Is that for Renee?
Renee?
So what do we need to do next?
So we need to just make sure that we're all on the same page as to what our expectations are. That you folks agree in principle that it wouldn't hurt to put in an application for a grant, making assumptions that your neighbors would be interested in such a thing if there was no money that you had to come up with. And that's the key here, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have to come up with money, if we can put in the application and come up with the matching portion,
Yes.
does that make sense and is it something that's possible?
Well, it makes sense to me, perfect sense. We have to pass this by Dean Preston and.
I was hoping you'd be here.
I was hoping he'd be here. Actually, Renee called and left a message for him to be here.
Yeah.
But, you know, we talked about that.
Sure.
The other thing is Cutler, who, I think are important to be here. But what I can do is write up a little blurb and let these people know how important it is and caution them to, encourage them to look at this that's being filmed so that they have some idea.
Yeah.
I think there are a certain level of skeptics. The other night I was at a book club and somebody said, we talked about this, and they said, oh my God, do you know how many years we've been trying to do this? So I think there's an element of people who say, we just tried and tried and tried
Sure.
and tried to do it. And I said, well, we're gonna do it again.
Well, I mean, now is the time. I mean, especially
Yes.
if you've already went to the incumbents and said, what
Yes.
can you do for us in
Yes.
these places where we don't have service? And they've politely told you they can't do anything.
Yeah.
You need to do something.
Yeah.
You need to do something. And I understand that completely. And like I said, this area just really came to the front of my mind when I was sitting in those workshops, and I thought, there's a way to make this happen.
Yeah.
With USDA looks at forestry and fishing as agriculture, so that's a good thing, that's a good fit. Rural is key. You know, the demographic, the per capita household income, you're not below the line that is most attractive, but you're close enough to it that we can make a case. And the fact that you have underserved and unserved territories, that, I mean, it just screams this project. So you're gonna be competing with a lot of places in the Midwest. You're gonna be competing with Plains type people, you know, with four houses per mile in the Plains. You're gonna be competing with folks that live in the United States, Native American tribes, people that live in Alaska, some of the the Virgin Islands and American territories. And there's a lot of rurality there in some of those places too that you have to compete with. But we just have to make sure that our application is as attractive and truthful as it can be. And that's why the geographic service area definition is a key to this whole thing. If they said you have to draw, you know, the DOT compact line is where your serving area is going to be, then, you know, we can't do this. It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
If they allow us to, and the guy mentioned this term, Swiss cheese, if they allow us to wiggle our service area around places where there's already pockets of service, and we can
Then
define
you're
that,
good.
that polygon has a square footage and an area that we can divide by the number of people that are in it. And if we can come up with that figure, we get a really good leg up on everybody else. That 25 points is a big deal.
So let me go back to this other question that, what was that thing we just filled out for REDI, R-E-D-I? That was from the USDA.
I'm not sure.
They
Not
have
familiar with
hundreds
that.
of programs, so.
No kidding, and when we talked on the phone the other day, I was thinking that it was the same thing, but it obviously wasn't.
No.
But we filled out an application here, as a matter of fact, Denise and I did, with Renee, and at the time, it was more of a broader based, there was the fiber optic broadband component, but then there were other needs of the rural area, possibly, you know, low-income housing or farming or that kind of thing. So the thing was that there was no mention of specific money.
No
Right.
money, but
It was
technical assistance.
a lot of assistance, and by the time we got finished, we thought, is this gonna be one of those things where a university or something like a big business will come in and tell us, we who live in caves all year round do not know how to do this, and they're gonna tell us how to get focused, you know, that kind of thing. Because I thought, I don't wanna be part of that.
If they're gonna give you free money, then you can tolerate it. If they're not gonna give you the money, then you don't need.
Just show me the money. Right. Just-
We'll listen to you if you bring money. If not,
Yes,
thanks for
a
coming.
ticket through the door with
Yeah.
money, yes, yes.
But it was mostly for strategic planning.
It was.
Technical assistance and
Yeah.
strategic.
But did you feel, I mean, it sort of smacked at the end, it's like, wait a minute, these people are just going to help us poor folks up in the northeast corner, right?
Well, you know, and unfortunately, you know, the application for the grant is probably not gonna be much better off than that, but
Yeah.
it's just an application, so.
Yeah.
You know, the point being, that the money is there, you have a need, you have a vision, there was a whole lot of passion at this table last time we were here.
Yes,
You know, if we can lock all those things together, I mean, it really seems like there's a fit. I can't guarantee you're even gonna get close to scoring, you know, in the grant, but we'll give it our best try. I mean, we've written a lot of grants over the years. I mean, Don's written a lot of grants for Connect Maine Authority. We've 40, yeah. We've tried a USDA Community Connect grant about 10 years ago, and that was just it was a really difficult grant application. A lot of things that we didn't really need to have in the application, in my opinion. But Don assures me that this is a pretty straightforward application. There's a lot of work to it, but it's not a bunch of unnecessary information that they're
Yeah.
requesting.
well, even the match is better than usual federal grants, because
Well,
they're
they-
usually 50-50.
The Community Connect grant before was 100%,
Yeah,
No, that was 85.
85, 50. So, but 75 is okay. I mean,
yeah,
we can work with that.
There is some paperwork that'll involve having the governor sign something that this is an area that needs this. But we also have a unique advocate in Augusta, Peggy.
Schaefer.
Just got
Oh,
named as the
Dynamo.
main director. So
Yes.
We'll get the letter.
she's a
Yes.
show of
Oh,
force
she's a dynamo, yeah, yeah, yeah. And she lives here in Lubec,
and wants it at her house.
yeah.
Don't blame her.
I think
And it's rural. I
it's
did
our,
look at
our
that.
ace in the hole, you know? It's-
Yeah, and I don't believe that there have been more than one or two USDA grants of that type in the state of Maine.
Ah, so it's our turn.
Well, Reconnect, this is brand new for Reconnect.
But as far as
There
USDA
was a-
grants in general,
There was a Community Connected grant that went to Cranberry Islands,
Oh, yes.
but it didn't come to the surface until some other grant failed along the way.
Yeah,
And when they did, then USDA kind of bumped Cranberry Islands up the list.
yes.
but other
Well,
than that. there's
Denise and
nothing
I
more.
were at the conference the day they found out about that, and it was just very exciting for them.
Can I ask a question about the money? You're talking about $1 million, we're talking about 5 towns. How do you suggest you proportion that out of all 5 towns? With different populations?
Well, so what I'm working on in my mind is working on a way for the utility to find or help with that financing, and it'll be inclusive of the entire region, right? So not necessarily broken out to make you have to come up with any money. I'm gonna try to find the match in another venue, so you don't have to worry
In
about
other
that.
words, the towns would not have,
That's correct.
might not have to match.
That's correct. That's my intention.
Okay.
Okay, so if, and I'm not saying I can guarantee that, but this is my intention, and if that fails and we get the grant and we have to come up with a match, then we have to punt and say, okay, maybe we need to have another way of getting this money. But my intention is to go and try to find that match so that this project can become part of the utility. So there's got to be some skin in the game from somebody here in order to make the match happen. And I think that we can leverage some partnerships that we have to make some of that happen. I can't guarantee anything, but like I said, this is such short notice. We don't have a very big window, and I see it as a viable project for what number of households in the region?
1,200-ish?
I thought it was 17, 15.
All 5 towns,
Yeah.
it's close to 1,800.
1,800, okay. So 1,800 structures in the
The
area
area,
Yeah.
yeah.
could benefit from this particular thing.
Now, are you counting year-round residents?
We're counting
Okay.
structures,
Yeah.
households
Yeah.
for this area.
Because we have here in this town, certainly, a lot of summer residents who have expressed to me their frustration with the lack of fiber optic
Sure.
broadband. And they've said, you know, if you can get it up here, get it. We'd pay the extra money, we'd do that. And they may be in a position to do that. And my sense is that's all gravy for us. because-
Are they in a served area already?
No,
Okay.
no. Quite often, they will build out on the water, out in some remote area, off in the woods, whatever.
20 poles away from the
Exactly,
nearest
yeah,
port.
so, yeah.
Can I go back to the money for?
Sure.
So a $2 million USDA grant.
We'd be looking at a $3 million USDA grant. It's a
Okay.
$4 million project.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting to. So you're talking about a match being the balance of what is not covered by the grant.
That's
Is that
correct.
what you're saying?
Yes.
They were 75, 25.
Yeah, 75, 25.
But you're thinking you can find it somewhere.
I've got an idea.
My pocketbook.
I've got an idea, and my idea is to not necessarily make it have to come from the individual towns or the UT. That's what I'm trying to do.
And to write the grant, to do this whole process, you, just so everyone is clear who's listening to this, are you charging anything for your service?
No, we're gonna do it, because the grant's gonna be in our name at that point. That's the way that, they wanna have a public-private type thing, and they say that it would be better for us to apply than a newly formed nonprofit group with no financial history. So they would want somebody, either a fully formed nonprofit corporation that has some history, or, an existing corporation. So we would provide our financials, with the application, and it would be in our name, and we would get the grant. If the grant comes through, we would get the grant. And that's the other reason that I don't want you to have to go in search of money from your towns. If we have to put it in our name, you know, it's not something that you should have to deal with. We should be responsible for finding that other money. But my intention is not to maintain ownership of that. I don't want the ownership of that. I want you to be able to have your choice of providers. I'd love to serve all of you, but I mean, the idea, and I believe strongly in this open access model, is that we bring competition to the table so that the best cream can rise to the top, you know, and it's going to be us. But I mean, that's beside the point. But you need to see the competition, and you need to bring the competition to the table.
So can you please just name the competition so that again. So
I can't. I can only tell you that there are 128 competitive local exchange carriers in the state of Maine that could be eligible to come serve here.
Okay, that's good
That's about all I can tell you.
No,
And technically, Spectrum and Consolidated
Could
could
use.
serve on this system.
But they won't.
They probably
Axiom
won't,
would be,
but.
you know,
Okay.
yeah.
But we have standard
Yeah,
players.
They'll probably be
We
here.
have standard players in
They've
this
been.
market. Great Works Internet, Otelco, First Light, Premium Choice Broadband, Axiom.
That's enough.
That's
So the clarity is
pretty
that
good.
once the infrastructure is in place, once the fibers are in place.
Right.
Anyone is able to use that infrastructure.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Is what you're saying.
Yes. It would be open and managed, hopefully, by the utility. And any provider that wanted to come serve this area would put their equipment in one of the little huts around the area to serve and pay a fee into the utility for the use of that particular fiber. Yes.
And then there's no issue, I'm assuming, with this grant because we have a mix of UT and towns.
No, because he's going to design the service area around where people already have broadband in these communities, and we're going to make a great big huge serving area that covers all of those places. Yeah. So yeah, it seems like it's worth doing. Else I wouldn't be here. But
Yeah.
if that didn't just jump out at me at this meeting, if we didn't ask those questions to get clarification, I wouldn't be here with an idea. And it's an idea at this point, and we're just trying to breathe some life into it.
Well, it sounds perfectly logical to me. It's right. I mean, it sounds a viable, doable thing. For my standpoint, I want to make sure that these other, the UTs and Cutler and Way, I want to get some kind of verbal or written okay from them, the approval or feeling that they're on board. Which is why I'm sort of upset that we don't have more people here today.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be an interlocal agreement of some kind, even if it's just an MOU?
Like I said, if we
Yeah.
get to the point where if we get the grant, and when do they determine that? It's like September or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if we get the grant, at that point, then we need to then be talking to the towns and having them come up with the agreement that the utility
MOU,
has.
yeah,
And
and-
it's a standard interoperability agreement, and it's something that you're all familiar with. And it's all it is putting your trust in the utility to run that particular
Sure.
thing. And all those particulars we can talk about in the meantime. So let's say, for example, we put in the application, we make grand assumptions that all these people are going to want this, and one of them doesn't want it. And, I don't know what that looks like, but I know that we've got time to try and help convince them, especially if we're not taking money out of their pockets,
Sure.
right? Why would you not want to do this? And I think we have time to do that. So I guess the timeline that I see here is that those of you that are here today, if you feel that this is something that's worth pursuing, we would be looking for letters of support. They're non-binding, they're just letters of support. We may need to get some information from you for the grant application.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tax-based information, your number of residents, number of street miles and all that. We've got stuff that we're gonna need for information.
Data.
If you can supply us with that data upon our request, GIS stuff, yeah,
Yep.
I mean, all
We can
that
do it.
stuff's important. And if we do this application and we send it out, then we can start having informational meetings and say, we don't know what this is gonna look like, but if it comes through and everybody's happy with this, we're gonna need to do this and such, which is gonna be that a memorandum of understanding, the interoperability agreement, put it all out in front of them so they get a chance to review it, so there's no surprises or anything, we're not trying to push anybody into doing anything, but we don't have time to do that before we get to put it in the application.
Yeah.
You get the grant based on this rural poverty and few people. And then one of the towns, because we can all be really cranky here.
Sure.
Opts out and says, don't want it.
Yep.
Does that change?
I don't know. I honestly don't know how that would look. I would be willing to fight the good fight in convincing the cranky constituents that they do want it, but
It's not us.
that's not.
Yeah. I think the key here is for us, the job here is to get these people involved.
Right.
You know, there's a level of apathy from people and all kinds of things. I think televising,
Disbelief.
yeah, we've done it before, it's not gonna happen.
Right.
Televising this today was probably a smart idea.
Sure.
People can.
And yeah, because, I mean,
Yeah.
we want to be completely transparent
Yes.
here. And if we had time, if they would have announced this a year ago,
Yeah,
then we could have set a timeline up and said, let's bring everybody together
Sure.
and put everything out on the table, and this is what this looks like. We just
Yeah.
don't have that kind of timeline. I mean,
yeah, and we look at a town meeting in August, and generally any kind of voting is done in that time, so we will hustle
Yeah.
and get this done.
At
And-
the last meeting, you gave sort of a general impression of the cost per household. I think that's important for people to know. And I know there's no commitment, you can't make a commitment
Sure.
to how much it costs. But correct me if I'm wrong, but you said probably would be about the same as what people are paying now, for whatever kind of.
oh, for their services?
Service.
You mean-
Okay,
Yes.
so.
And I know you can't commit, but just to give people an idea of, is this changing their bills dramatically?
Okay, so.
For better service, and I just want that to be discussed. so
Yeah,
people can hear this.
I understand. So in the model that we're proposing, it will be open, meaning that other providers can come in and serve. So you currently have a cable company and a telephone company that are supplying your broadband needs today. In this open access network, the people that don't have those folks will have access to all the other providers that want to come onto the fiber and serve them. So if you want to look at our pricing, it's on our website. That's the same pricing we're going to offer here. The same pricing that we offer in Holton and Presque Isle, and you know. So we have a full menu of services. We have television, internet, telephone. We have bundles. We have non-bundles. And to give you an idea of what we offer, I can't tell you what my competition is going to offer, but our 100 meg over 100 meg service is $59.95. That's all fees included. All the USF and main funds and all the fees and everything are taken out of that. We charge the $59.95 and then we back all that out and pay the taxes out of that particular bunch that we collect. So, if $59.95 for 100 megabit per second internet access is a good thing and changes your bill, then when eventually the fiber comes into the served area later on, because we have to do this unserved area portion first. So all the people that don't have anything are going to get everything right first, and then we can look at going into the areas where there's other service with private money.
Yeah.
Yes, you said 100 meg, what is the maximum or?
So right now we offer up to 1 gigabit per second, and this summer we'll have 10 gigabit per second service levels in 2 of our serving centers in Holton and Presque Isle. So we can do quite a bit at this point in time. We don't have many people that take 10 gigabits per second.
Not many people would need that. No.
Right now we only have one customer that takes 10 gig. But we do have a bunch of people that take a 1 gig service. They love the 1 gig. The 100 meg is our base product, and that's where people like to be. And so Spectrum has a 100 meg product. It's 100 meg in the download direction. It's about 15 or so in the upload direction. Consolidated has an 80 meg download and a 30 meg upload. That's either bonded DSL or bonded VDSL together. I mean, they're good products, but the problem with the cable one is that your upload is limited unless you buy business class fiber from them, and it's a lot more expensive than a residential service. And from the telephone company's perspective, if you're more than 4,000 feet away, you lose out on that VDSL because it doesn't work out there. It's standard DSL, and then you have to bond a bunch of them together in order to get into it. That's just another piece of equipment and headache. And it's still all in copper. And you folks know as well as I do that when it's raining, or when it's windy, or when it's whatever, the copper is older, so it's corroded. It's, you know, it's just a big jumbled mess. I mean, with fiber optics, it's a piece of glass that runs for miles, and we put a light on it. And you can break it, and it'll stop working. But if you don't break it, it's working. And there's nothing in between the serving equipment and the customer prem. It's all just glass. So there's no equipment that goes out when the power goes out.
Doesn't wear out.
You know, it doesn't wear out. It doesn't even, as long as you have power in the serving building and in the receiving building, you can use that facility. You know, and that's the wonderful thing about fiber. It's designed to last 30 years, 30 to 50 years in some cases. So I mean, it's a great medium in which to put information over.
Do you, this is really stupid, okay, but you have to forgive me. I need to transfer some of what you've just said about gigabytes, megabytes, all that stuff, to people, you know, like Prescott, and I might want to do it in a narrative. Can you copy that down for me, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm so glad you said
Yeah,
that.
you lost me.
No, that's fine, and
Yeah.
that's understandable. So what we'll do is we'll try to put a spec sheet together in layman's terms about what we've got
That
to
would be
offer.
wonderful, because I
I
think
think that
that's,
FTTH magazine had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that, see, that's where I lose almost everybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
On the other hand, if something sounds like gobbledygook to you,
yeah, let us know.
Yeah.
don't hesitate to hit our pause button
Yes.
and say, please elaborate or give me some clarity.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to come across like those guys who fly into town, talk fast,
Yeah.
and leave you bewildered.
Well, you're approachable, I can say that you are more than anybody else. But, you know, I've had this epiphany, because I feel like I am all out of my depth here. But the other morning I thought, I don't think I can do this, I can't talk to people technically. And I thought, wait a minute, when they brought electricity to this country, not everybody knew how to do electricity. You're okay, Rachel.
For a long time, it was the light bill.
The light
We
bill,
didn't know to use it to
exactly.
make a refrigerator, cool
Yes.
food, you know.
Yes, well, we just read in our book club, The Last Days of Night, which I would highly recommend about that. So yes, if you could do that, that would be wonderful, because I will attempt to reach out to the
Would be glad to come
UTs
back
and
and
all
help.
that stuff. Well, I thought I was gonna bring hordes of people in here today.
Well, we were kind of nervous because we saw a sign down at the end of the road, and we're like, oh my goodness, how many people are going to show up to this thing? But
Yeah, yeah.
I have one of those stupid questions. You were talking figures download and upload,
Mm-hmm.
and the download was bigger. Explain that to me.
Sure.
Something I can understand.
Certainly. So when you're at your home and you're viewing things on the internet, when you click the button in the Google search bar, you're sending an upload to the internet.
A request.
So that request is uploaded to the internet. When the results come back to you, that's a download. Okay?
Even I can cope with that.
Yeah. And so when you're watching a movie on Netflix, that's download. When you're sending a video up to YouTube that you just created, that's an upload. Okay? And so what limits a lot of people is the upload. And not everybody needs the upload. The standard in the ISP world, upload is 10% normally of what people use for download. So we usually run about 6 gigabits per second in the evening on our network right now. That's where we max out. And then we have about a tenth of that, about 600 to 700 megabits per second, which is going in the other direction that our customers push out. So we only use about 10% of it. But some things require more than what standard broadband in DSL and cable offer in the upload direction. And the reason for that is because in a shared medium like cable TV or DSL, there are other signals in the same cable that can get interfered with by your upload transmission. So the FCC makes the power be down so that you're not spreading frequency interference throughout the bundle of cables or throughout the core of the cable to people in your neighborhood. So they allowed a whole bunch of it to come down because it's getting spread out to everybody. But your individual request is minimized because they don't want you to bleed over into your neighbors and interfere with them. With fiber optics, it's a complete closed channel. It's a piece of glass between you and the equipment in the central office. There's no interfering. There's no way for you to interfere. So we can put the full power back up in the upload. Therefore, we can offer a symmetrical service. It's a physics thing. It's like satellite. The satellite is 23,000 miles away. It beams down a whole bunch of power across the globe, and we all feel it and take our little bit of it. But when your 18-inch dish goes to send it back up to the satellite, you don't have nearly the power that they send it back down with. You're just limited in that regard. Therefore, you can't have that symmetrical data exchange. But with the glass, with the fiber, it's a piece of glass from one end to the other, and we shine flashlights at each end at a high rate of speed, make ones and zeros.
They're lasers.
They're flashlights.
Take a good teacher with it. That's great, all right. You'll get that to me then, so I can
Sure.
disseminate it?
I just sent myself a note, so I do
Okay,
it. If I don't, I
okay.
forget it.
All right, anybody else, any other questions?
One
Yeah.
more question. So, I'm living downtown Rebecca also and have 100 megabit service right now.
How's it working?
But I'm running a business in Minnesota from here, and doing video conferences with my employees and sometimes with customers. It's just adequate, just barely, just barely.
Because of the upload portion, they're not getting you like you'd like them to get you.
Exactly, exactly. So then a follow-up question here would be if it happens so that a bunch of people downtown actually got together and talking about the private portion of this, maybe that's something that could be discussed not after everything was done, but maybe before. things
Those
were-
conversations could happen in parallel,
Yeah.
but what we have to do.
I know what you have to do,
Yeah.
I really fully
Yeah.
understand that. Yeah.
From the grant perspective, we can't really include that in
No,
there.
no, no.
But we're justified in putting out an application that has expansion capabilities that we can tap into later on. You know, so there's a framework that can be set for that. So your concern is noted, and will probably be pretty easy to leverage after the network gets built if we get the grant. I mean, it really seems like a pretty easy thing to do. I mean, capturing a higher number of customers in a more dense area is a pretty easy business case. So, and that, I mean, our investors would jump all over that.
Mhm. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, and anything you need from us, let me know, okay? I mean.
We're gonna make some requests in the form of data and that
Yes.
kind of thing, and we'll have some form letters that we'll send out for support.
Yes,
We would probably want to get them to sign a letter requesting the governor's letter, so that and send that to, maybe enlist Peggy to help out with that. If we can get all of the governing bodies
yes.
to just agree that this is a worthwhile.
It has to go to the application.
Well, I have a small amount of leverage. Janet Mills stayed at my house,
Okay.
so, you know, I can pull that whenever.
You know,
Also kind of,
I don't even think she's been in my town, so you're a leg up.
So can I just ask this question?
This is your time.
Anything you want?
Go for it.
Is this meeting primarily to talk about this grant, or do we also delve into the conversation, what if you don't get the grant?
Yeah, I know, we're here for you. I wanted to bring you that idea just because I think it might work. If it doesn't, I'm a realist. It might not work. I've never done this before because this is the first time it's available.
It's my understanding that there will be a round 2 with the USDA Reconnect program, and perhaps a round 3 for the next 2 years is what they're talking about.
Okay,
Good.
Hard to say, but it's hard to get rid of government programs, so.
right.
So, to answer your question, we're here to talk about whatever you want to talk about. And I think that's a good thing to talk about. If this doesn't work, if this grant thing doesn't work out, what can you do?
Well, you mentioned that the last time, to
Yeah.
talk about a bond and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
You know,
And so that's, up until today, that's where we were thinking.
right.
You know.
And I don't think that's I don't think it's off the table
No.
until we know more about this other thing. But it probably wouldn't hurt to be thinking in your mind of a backup plan. And what we've been told by the utility, because we aren't the utility, we work for the utility, we build their network and we design their network. And because we're talking to you, we talked to them and said, what can we tell these people about the utility? And they're like, we're really excited to think that they might want to join, but we have to make sure that they go into it with the right expectation. We paid a lot of money to create the utility, and in order to share that out, there's going to have to be some money that gets spent in order to become a part of it. And so that there's a little bit of that too, and they're still trying to figure that out, how that's going to work. But if we can have this project be part of the utility, then there's going to have to be some type of guarantee in the back end as to how the network gets paid for.
Yeah.
The utility has borrowing capability. They're a full-fledged utility. They have all the insurances and all the legal, everything is done. Now they are building Callis and Baileyville. They haven't seen a dollar yet from the revenue. I mean, it's not done, so they haven't seen any money coming in yet. And they're getting ready to term out their letter of credit to a full-blown loan. So
Yeah.
this is a tenuous time for them, right? They're sitting back thinking, okay, we hope that we get as many people as we thought we were going to get in order to make this work. And I think that until they start seeing some customers come on the network, they're not going to be ready to pull the trigger, you know, this summer. But maybe this fall or this winter, they'll be ready to do some of that.
From the beginning of that to this day, seems quick, right? I mean, because I'm in the Washington County Council of Governments, and I remember the guy from Baileyville talked about starting it, and that just seemed like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
first conversation in 2014, right? When we first talked.
Yeah, it probably was that.
But they didn't pull the trigger on anything until 2017.
that's right, yeah.
So I mean, the idea has been around for a while on how to
Okay.
create the utility. But no, they actually made contracts and started the process in 2017.
It was also their economic development groups that got together and formed this quasi-municipal entity. It wasn't the town councils. I mean, they were approached at some point and there were town votes that happened, but it was largely driven by the economic development groups.
Yeah.
Which
So-
kind of makes things go faster.
Sure,
You know,
it does.
It's possible, and what we need to do is keep in mind all the other granting entities out there.
Mhm.
We need to be looking at Connect Main Authority and
NBRC.
NBRC and anything else that we can find that will help, you know, anything that will help.
Yeah.
And if we can put in this application and there's interest that gains some foothold here, then you should form some type of loose association at least, some type of regional committee at
Yeah.
least.
But we would be part of the Callis.
Well, that's the intent, to strive to that, but in the meantime, you need to at least gather some support and create
Yeah.
some type of loose association.
You talked about the Swiss cheese where you would cut out the well-served. Do you then go back later
Yeah.
and try and include?
Yeah, so we would use the grant money to do the unserved portions, and then we'd use private dollars to go into those areas that were already well-served in order for them to get access to the fiber optics.
There's distribution fiber that goes to your individual homes, and then there's transport fiber that you make links to other sections of the network. So, you know, it's all part of that plan with a vision toward where are the places we can't serve yet. And
So when you're talking about calculating mileage, because I go down people's driveways, and that was sort of what you just indicated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because some people's driveways are really long.
Sure, yeah, we're talking about total surface area divided by household served, trying to achieve a number that's less than 6 for that rurality scoring in the grant. So that's how we're gonna try to form that. Yes, sir.
Right on the other side of the water is Canada.
Yes.
What would be the technical feasibility of connecting Campobello into this system? I understand that the grant application would not work,
Sure.
but the infrastructure part,
Mhm.
would that be something that they could be talking about over there?
So, there's an actual border crossing right there, right?
Oh, yeah.
You can drive
Right at
right
the
over.
bridge,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we have a fiber in Holton that goes into Woodstock, New Brunswick, when we gain service from Alliant in New Brunswick. We have a peering arrangement with them. So it's technically feasible to get a cable to go across into Campbell and serve them. We have some paperwork we have to fill out. There's some custom stuff we have to do. There's not a presidential permit unless we go under the water. But there's Army Corps of Engineers and the U.S. Boundary Commission. We fill out all this paperwork and just tell them what we're going to do, and we can hand them a fiber optic cable and they can get service there.
How are they served now for power and telco?
They have undersea power.
From
New
Brunswick?
cables are just in the process from New Brunswick.
Right.
The new cables that are going in have fiber in them, but there's no connection between Deer Island and the mainland. So there's some technical issues in dealing with getting connectivity over here.
Well, it is technically feasible for you to have fiber optic cable that could go into Campbell.
Don't say me, I'm
No,
not from there.
but into that area. There's only one thing that could put a monkey wrench in that whole deal, and that's the NAFTA discussions that we're having right now. If that goes south, then I don't know what to say. I mean,
There is concern on the other side about
I'm
that.
concerned because I have, we've already spent, $500,000 to put our cable across the border, and that was 10 years ago. And we've gotten our use out of it, but I'd sure like to get another 10 out of it if I could. But if this NAFTA thing goes south, I'm gonna have to pull my cable out. Yeah. Yeah, because of the way that the agreement's drawn up. I'm not able to get that particular thing, service, item, if we mess
Is it a
up.
money issue or like tariffs or?
It's a tariff. And so when we start impacting import and export stuff, then telecommunications is one of those things in the private sector. If we're not an AT&T or a level 3, we're going to lose our footing in that. And it's a very important piece for our network because we're one of the only internet service providers in the state of Maine that has a northbound exit point. Everything goes up through Portland and Manchester, New Hampshire. So we have an outbound escape path through New Brunswick and Hawaii.
The unfortunate thing about this NAFTA thing, it's just become very political.
Yeah, and right now it's
It's,
just a whirlwind of
Yeah.
disbelief
Yes.
when I
Yes.
read some of the stuff.
I
That's
know.
like, so I didn't necessarily agree with NAFTA when it came around, but I got used to it,
Yeah.
and now we're gonna go monkeying with it.
well, it's one of those things that was going to take a heck of a long time before people, realized it. But anyway, this is marvelous.
Well, I hope it was time well spent. I mean, like I said, I can't make any guarantees that any of this stuff's gonna work, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping that an application can be filled out and it can come back and they say, we'll approve it. And then we go to work, right, and say, this is what we've got, jump on board. And we can always deny it. We can always say, no, if there's enough people that don't want anything to do with it, we've made a good run at it, but it didn't work out.
I'm game, right?
If you get the grant, how long do you have before they take it back if you haven't utilized it?
I don't know the answer.
I don't know.
We have to accept it, so we can either accept it or deny it. And I'll tell you right now that if we accept it, we're gonna run it all the way to the end. So it's gonna be either an accept or deny. We're not gonna accept it and then back out of it. If we accept it, we're gonna run it to the full completion. But we may not accept it if there's not a whole lot of support, If you guys take, 3 towns away from that and you start pulling numbers away from
That's my concern.
Yeah.
But we always have the opportunity to deny the grant. And then it'll go to the next person with the best score. So.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I'd like to say I'm confident, but I'm a realist, and I don't know what this application is going to be like, because it's the first time, and they keep giving us these disclaimers, like this is the first time we've done this application, so there's plenty of bugs in it, and there's going to be things you're going to come up with. I'm like, something I want to hear.
Yeah.
I want to hear that it's a good, solid application that we
Yes.
just fill out and
Yes.
give us money.
Yeah. And hurry up and
Hurry up about it.
Yeah.
The other thing about this grant, folks, is that we have to spend the match first. So we're gonna have, if we say we're gonna put skin in the game and do the
Yeah.
grant, we're going to have to come up with the money first and make it happen. So it's not like we're gonna design the grant so that we don't have to spend $1 million. We have to spend that $1 million first. Then they start giving us the $3 million in drawdowns from a line of credit in order to do the construction.
Well, I see one of the things I gotta do is to make sure these UTs are on board.
I really
And
wish they could have been here.
I wish they could have too. But if you can give me those little blurbs and stuff like that, I will put together a package. I will go down. I don't think the UT ever has like a town meeting
No,
or anything.
that's
you know?
why I asked the question.
That's why it's a
because,
UT.
You know, if you're talking about money from towns and they're
Yes.
just totally
Yes.
separate kinds of entities. and
Yeah.
No.
Well, the key here is gonna be Dean.
Yeah, we did one grant before with the county, and Dean was one of the spearheads on it. The other guy was Ken, whose name is not coming to me, but Ken Day.
Kenny Day?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was very helpful on it too.
yes,
And that's when we did the Big Lake Township.
okay.
An unorganized town, there was one champion in town who kind of pushed and went out door to door to everybody to say, here's what we were thinking of doing. There's no formal entity for them to agree, so as long as the county agreed to it,
Right.
then we were able to go
Yes.
ahead. And we matched that up with a Connect Main grant, because it's
Yeah.
a small project.
Yeah,
Well, it was small, but it was $170,000, but, you know, that got 38 people, fiber optic broadband, which was the number of people in Big Lake Township.
mhm.
Yeah, we can give you the name for writing for the selectmen that could give you all the facts and figures.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be great, so we're gonna request that information, so what I think we should do is, Dawn will be in touch with you,
Good.
we'll get that list of contacts, so we know who to call for what information,
Uh-huh.
and then we'll set up a game plan from our end and
Yes.
share that with you folks.
Good.
And we'll give you the narrative. We've also got some stuff from we're a member of the Fiber to the Home Council, the National Fiber to the Home Council, and we've got some packets that we can give you about fiber broadband in your community. It talks about things like telemedicine and real estate value increases and aging in place and recreational use of the broadband and
That's always a
all that
question.
stuff.
I mean, what is it gonna do for, and we,
Yeah.
that's what we say all the time.
We've got a bunch of those packets.
Yes.
We got the last show that we were at in Nashville last year.
great.
And we'll send them down to you.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind distributing them, we'll send them to you.
Oh, love to. That's all I do in life.
There you
is
go,
distribute.
distribute. And our contact information is able to be shared with anybody that's here. I didn't
Right.
bring enough business cards, I didn't give them to you, but
Yeah,
by all means, if anybody has questions, if any of you want to ask questions later, feel free to write us, we'd be happy to help you out. Don's gonna come up with a big stack of business cards here.
Oh, I do have.
that's why he's got the big bag.
Because I
Oh,
forgot.
look.
I forgot them
Look at
last
it.
time, so.
There.
Look,
So if you have
Yeah.
questions, ask Don.
Donation the whole, yeah.
there we go. Lovely.
Right.
All right, now you're gonna just get in the car and go back home.
No, we're going to Callis for the night. We got work to do tomorrow.
Oh,
We're
okay.
still managing this Callis and Baileyville build, so it's a pretty
Yeah.
exciting time for us.
It's exciting to watch it.
Yeah.
Because when they started, and at the council, I thought, they were so enthusiastic, and it was boom, 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 and it seemed like it was lickety-split, you know?
Well, I'll tell you, right now, we have just finished, the biggest thing has been getting the license to get on the poles. It's been a
Yeah.
real challenge. But we just finished putting all of the backbone fiber around the city of Callis.
Uh-huh.
So there's 1,728 fibers around the city of
Oh,
Callis.
wow.
And my guys have spliced all the fibers in the central office, and on Monday, they start putting out the first splice cases that make service available to people
In
on North
neighborhoods.
Street, South Street, and Washington Street.
Fantastic.
Wow.
So it's huge
Yes.
right now. And so, you know, that part, when we see that getting done, and we can bring people in and show them,
Yeah.
this is what's happening.
Yes,
And when those first people get their service,
Yes.
it will be a whole different thing.
yeah.
You'll see it on the news.
Dancing
lots of
in the
press-
street.
It'll be incredible. I mean, honestly, the people that get our fiber optic service once they come from any other service are they just step back and say, why have I not had this for all this time?
Exactly. Yeah,
Good. It's pretty neat stuff.
that's
And-
good to see.
And we definitely would welcome, you know, any of the folks in this area that want to learn more about that utility. We would love to put you guys together
Yes.
with the utility folks, because they're excited about this too.
Yeah,
But they're still a little bit wary
uh-huh.
of forming new relationships because they haven't got a dollar back yet. So they don't want to go spend any more money until they start getting some more money in.
Sure.
So I think that can happen eventually. But you know, if the interest is still there, when the time comes for either this grant to come through or not come through, I think that'll be a more fitting time for us to get together with utilities.
Sure.
They'll have some revenue under their belt, and they'll see the realism that is, fiber broadband. They'll know
Oh,
they
yeah.
can pay their bills for the next 27 years.
Well, when you said something like 59 or whatever, that's not monumental. You know, I mean, I think that people are used to things like hundreds of dollars more. And that's, you know, for a lot of people, that's not realistic.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
And, and you guys are all aware of what you're lacking for broadband, but I'm gonna leave you with one thing. This television, broadcast right here, it could be put out in HD. And if it were put out in HD, it would take somewhere around 15 megabits per second if you looked at it raw and uncompressed.
Mhm.
A 4K TV takes 38 megabits per second for you to watch one channel. So if you got multiple TVs in your home, multiple 38 megabit per second feeds, it doesn't take long for you to use up your 100 meg if you have it. And if you don't, it's even more of a stressor because you can't even get that 4K channel. You can only get a standard HD channel. So just keep that in mind. Any of the over-the-top services like Netflix and Hulu and those things that are now offering 4K service, you can't get it because you don't have enough bandwidth in some of these places. You don't have 38 megabits per second in some places. So, and that's only going to change, right? Because now there's 8K TVs, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't even know what the bit rate is for an 8K TV. But if it's 38 megabits per second for a 4K TV, it's got to be up there. It's got to be substantial. At least twice that. So it's got to be substantial.
Yeah.
So, and video is the main driver. I mean, as much as we want to think it's business, video is the main driver for internet, right? And that's either creation and putting it out to YouTube or whatever, or the download and consumption of it in the form of a standard television channel.
Telemedicine would fit in that category too. If
Yeah, it's
you're
video.
If you're able to visit your doctor from home,
Yes, over the
that
phone,
camera
yes.
is gonna be sending out a big.
Yep.
text.
And your video conferencing, that would also fit into that same thing.
Sure.
And that's, because video is the biggest consumer.
I would also like to add education, remote
Yes.
education.
Remote education.
Could be important for many people around
Yes.
the area.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a biggie.
Have you folks ever, I'll send you the link. When I went to the Schools, Healthcare and Library Broadband Show in Washington DC last spring, and they had a lady from Sanford, Maine, who came up with an idea for a robot to go to her daughter's hospital room while she was ill for a while. I don't remember what it was she had, but she had a robot in her school that she controlled from her iPad in her hospital bed and took part in her classes. She went to
Wow.
lunch with the kids. They went outside
Wow.
to recess. They joined the reading circle with the
Oh,
robot.
my
and So
goodness.
she's playing a game essentially on her iPad.
It's like virtual life.
Yeah, and interacting with these
Yes.
kids.
Is that the kind of robot where their face is actually on the iPad?
Yeah, they have the iPad.
Oh.
The iPad is on the road.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
it brought me to tears
Yeah.
when I saw this little girl in her reading circle with all of her friends, and she's half a world away,
Yeah.
getting the best care she can get.
That is
And this little
amazing.
robot allowed her to stay in tune with her classmates. Amazing. I'll send you the link.
Yes.
It's a tearjerker. It's an amazing use of technology that there's so much more than just what we
Yes.
do with it today.
And that's good to know.
Just so
It
much.
is.
Is that on your Facebook?
Yeah, it was.
Post it there?
Yeah, it was an incredible thing.
Ask to be his friend.
And at that show in Washington DC, three businessmen stood up and sponsored a robot. $5,000.
Wow.
I'll sponsor a robot. I'll sponsor a robot. It was just amazing.
Wow.
It was
That's
really,
incredible.
really cool.
Kelsey.
All right.
What a story.
If you have any questions, please feel free to
Yes,
call.
yes.
Thank you.
Take it
Thank
quick.
you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Tim and Don, once again. Yes, yes, enjoy your stay here. The weather can do nothing but get better, right?
Ask you, right?
It was snowing when
I said,
from
I
the
said,
newspaper.
oh, just getting me ready to have the game of
Do you have a card? I don't, but I can write my name down for you.
I've never started watching that. There's plenty of others, you know, what we
People
did
wait
at home
to
was,
explain the custom software.